Section 1. The Black Flame Kindled, Anton LaVey and the Birth of a New Satanism. We now approach a path often veiled in the deepest shadows of assumption: modern Satanism, a term that can evoke immediate visceral reactions. Many associate it instinctively with the ultimate dark magic. Yet, as with all things shrouded in mystery, the surface rarely tells the full tale. Our exploration leads us to a pivotal figure, Anton Szandor LaVey. It was he who, in the year 1969, penned a book that would ignite controversy. This book was titled The Satanic Bible. Its arrival marked a distinct, challenging moment in spiritual discourse. The late 1960s were a crucible of profound societal transformation, a time of questioning established norms, of cultural upheaval and rebellion. Old structures of authority were being challenged, new freedoms sought. It was within this fertile ground of dissent that LaVey's philosophy emerged. He founded the Church of Satan in 1966, a visible beacon for his ideas. The Satanic Bible served as its foundational text, its guiding manifesto. It was not whispered in hidden covens, but published openly, a bold declaration in a world already grappling with shifting values. The publication of the Satanic Bible sent ripples, even shockwaves, through society. For many, its very title was an affront, a provocation. It was immediately sensationalized, often condemned without true understanding. Fearful whispers spoke of devil worship, of blasphemous rites, of evil unleashed. The popular imagination, already primed with images of a horned, malevolent entity, struggled to reconcile this with LaVey's articulate philosophical pronouncements. Was this a genuine spiritual path, or a carefully crafted charade? The questions hung heavy in the air, thick with suspicion and intrigue. Our purpose here is not to condone nor to condemn, but to illuminate, to peer beyond the dramatic headlines, the ingrained cultural fears. What did Anton LaVey truly propose within the pages of his infamous book? Is modern Satanism, as defined by him, a call to nefarious deeds? Or is it something else entirely, a radical philosophy of self? Let us approach with an open mind, willing to dissect the myth from the message. For sometimes the most shadowed paths hold unexpected truths, truths that challenge us to reconsider our deepest assumptions. Section 2. The 11 Satanic Rules of Earth. A philosophy of self-preservation. At the heart of LaVeyan Satanism lies a distinct code of conduct, not commandments handed down from a divine authority, but pragmatic guidelines. These are often summarized in the 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth. They speak not of otherworldly salvation, but of thriving in this carnal existence. The philosophy champions individualism, a fierce and unapologetic self-focus. It encourages strength, vitality, and the pursuit of personal fulfillment. This is not a path of meekness, nor of turning the other cheek. It is a call to embrace one's own power, intelligently and strategically. Self-empowerment is a cornerstone, a foundational principle of this way. Satanism, in LaVey's vision, urges individuals to be their own gods, to take full responsibility for their lives, their actions, their destinies. There is no reliance on external saviors or divine intervention here. The power to change, to achieve, to overcome, resides within the self. This demands a keen awareness, a sharp intellect, and a strong will. It is a path for those who dare to sculpt their own reality. Rejecting the notion of being a passive pawn in some cosmic game, a key aspect that often startles outsiders is the embrace of indulgence. The Satanic Bible posits that indulgence, not compulsion, is the magic of life. This is a direct challenge to traditional religious doctrines of abstinence and denial. Satanism suggests that human beings are carnal creatures with natural desires. To suppress these desires, it argues, leads to frustration and hypocrisy. Instead, one should intelligently pursue gratification without harming others undeserving. This is not a call for mindless hedonism, but for a conscious enjoyment of life's pleasures. A celebration of the senses, of the body, of earthly existence itself. This philosophy also introduces the concept of responsibility to the responsible. It is a nuanced idea, far removed from indiscriminate compassion. Satanism encourages kindness and aid to those who deserve it, to those who contribute, who are capable, who are worthy of respect. However, it does not advocate wasting energy or resources on those who would exploit, or on those who consistently prove themselves to be parasitic or detrimental. This is a form of ethical pragmatism, a selective application of empathy. Protecting one's own well-being and vital energy is paramount. A profound point of misunderstanding surrounds the figure of Satan itself. In LaVeyan Satanism, Satan is generally not worshipped as a literal deity. There are no prayers to a horned being residing in a fiery underworld. This is a largely atheistic or agnostic philosophy in its core tenets. The Church of Satan, for instance, explicitly states its atheistic stance. It views gods and devils as human creations, projections of our own psyches. So, what then is the role of Satan in Satanism? The answer lies in symbolism, in potent archetypal power. Satan, in this context, becomes a powerful symbol of rebellion, an icon of defiance against arbitrary authority and oppressive dogma. He represents the eternal dissenter, the one who questions, who challenges, the adversary not of humanity, but of blind faith and herd mentality. This Satan is the spirit of critical inquiry, of intellectual independence. He embodies the courage to stand apart, to forge one's own path, even if that path leads away from the comforting illusions of the majority. A champion of free thought, unburdened by ancient superstitions. Furthermore, Satan is embraced as a symbol of our carnal nature, of the untamed life force, the vital existence that religions often seek to curb. He represents pride, not as a sin, but as self-respect and dignity. He stands for worldly wisdom, for the pleasures of the flesh, for undefiled wisdom. This is a celebration of humanity in its fullness, with all its desires, its ambitions, its inherent connection to the animalistic, earthy aspects of being. It is an affirmation of life here and now, rather than a deferred heavenly reward, a call to live fully, richly, and without unnecessary apology. This symbolic reinterpretation radically challenges traditional notions of evil. If Satan is not a literal entity of malice, but an archetype of liberation, then the very framework of good versus evil begins to shift, to blur. Satanism, in this light, does not ask its adherents to be evil, but rather to question who defines evil and for what purpose. It suggests that much of what has been labelled sin or darkness is simply natural human behaviour, suppressed by those seeking control. The adversary here is not a cosmic foe, but restrictive thinking itself. Modern Satanism, as outlined by LaVey, mounts a potent critique of conventional morality. It often views traditional religious ethics as hypocritical and life-denying, accusing them of fostering guilt, shame, and unnatural repression. The Satanist seeks to live by a more realistic, pragmatic code, one that acknowledges human nature as it is, not as it should be. This involves a shattering of sacred tablets, a re-evaluation of inherited values. It is a call to define one's own ethics based on reason and self-interest, rather than blindly accepting dictates from ancient texts or institutions. A central theme is the embrace of the whole self, including its shadowed aspects. Satanism does not advocate for the suppression of our darker impulses, but rather for their understanding, their integration, and their controlled expression. To deny these parts of ourselves, it argues, is to live an incomplete, fractured life. The shadow self holds power, creativity, and vital energy. The goal is not to indulge in uncontrolled, destructive behavior, but to harness these primal forces for personal strength and achievement. To become a complete individual, acknowledging all facets of one's being. This philosophy actively rejects the imposition of guilt and shame, especially concerning natural human desires and instincts. The pursuit of pleasure, ambition, and self-preservation are not seen as sins, but as valid expressions of a healthy, vital existence. Satanism encourages a shedding of the psychic burdens imposed by doctrines that teach inherent human unworthiness or the sinfulness of the flesh. It promotes a sense of pride in one's own nature and capabilities. Freedom from guilt is seen as essential for true self-empowerment. This challenging of morality extends to concepts of justice. The satanic principle of lex talionis, or an eye for an eye, is often cited. This is a stark contrast to injunctions to turn the other cheek. Satanism advocates for justice in this life, not deferred to an afterlife. If one is wronged, it is considered appropriate to respond in kind, not out of uncontrolled rage, but as a calculated restoration of balance. This does not mean initiating aggression, but it does mean defending oneself and ensuring that those who cause harm face tangible consequences. Despite articulate explanations, modern Satanism remains plagued by misconceptions. The most persistent is the conflation with literal devil worship, or theistic Satanism. Many still imagine clandestine rituals involving sacrifices or pacts with a demonic entity. Or they associate Satanism with criminal acts and malevolent intent. These lurid fantasies are largely fueled by media sensationalism and historical prejudice. They bear little resemblance to the actual philosophy espoused by LaVey or the practices of most who identify as LaVeyan Satanists today. The reality is often far more intellectual and individualistic. It is also important to note that Satanism is not a monolithic term. While LaVey's Church of Satan established a foundational modern interpretation, other groups and individuals have since adopted the label with differing philosophies. Some may be theistic, believing in Satan as a real being. Others, like the Satanic Temple, use satanic imagery for political activism and social critique, focusing on issues of secularism, bodily autonomy, and compassion. Our focus here has primarily been on the atheistic, individualist current that flowed from the Satanic Bible, as this is often misunderstood as dark magic. So, how does a modern LaVeyan Satanist live this philosophy? It is less about overt ritual and more about a personal orientation to life. It involves critical thinking, questioning authority, and taking responsibility. It means pursuing personal goals with intelligence and determination, enjoying the pleasures of life without guilt while being mindful of consequences, and interacting with the world based on reason and pragmatic ethics. It is a path of self-mastery, of becoming the architect of one's own existence, a quiet rebellion enacted in the everyday choices one makes. In conclusion, when we peel back the layers of fear and sensationalism, modern Satanism, particularly in its LaVeyan form, reveals itself. Not as a call to embrace evil or worship a dark lord, but as a philosophy centered on radical individualism and self-empowerment. It challenges us to question, to think for ourselves, to define our own values. Its use of Satan is symbolic, a potent metaphor for rebellion and human nature. Whether one agrees with its tenets or not, understanding its actual philosophy is crucial to moving beyond the myths that so often cloud our perception of the darker paths.